requirements change for individual cohorts, these requirements are specific to the cohort of 2025. Reading the chart from left to right, the alternative diploma is available for students with significant cognitive disabilities who participate in the Nevada alternate assessments. The alternative diploma requires students to earn 23 credits in various credit categories. The standard diploma requires students to earn 23 credits in various credit categories. The advanced diploma requires students to earn 24 credits in various credit categories and obtain a minimum 3.25 unweighted GPA. Beginning with the cohort of 2026, as outlined in Regulation 5127 high school graduation requirements and in alignment with Nevada revised statute, the advanced diploma may be awarded to students who meet the credit requirements and earn either a 3.25 weighted or unweighted grade point average. The College and Career Ready diploma on the far right-hand side of the chart is by far the most rigorous of the diplomas that a student can earn. The College and Career Ready diploma requires students to earn 24 credits in various credit categories, and the additional requirements, which are found on the far right-hand side of the slide. At least one of the math credits are in a course of Algebra 2 or higher, a grade point average of 3.25 weighted, proficiency in 2 languages. That proficiency can be demonstrated by earning the seal of biliteracy or through an AP exam with a score of 4 or 5. Or 2 credits in advanced placement, international baccalaureate, dual enrollment, a CTE program of study, work-based learning, or a world language. And finally, that the student earns either a college endorsement with ACT scores of 22 in math and 18 in English, or a career endorsement with an industry recognized credential, participation in the ASVAB, and participating in the ACT Work Keys assessment. Factors contributing to the improved graduation rates include academic planning with students, specifically school counselors meeting with secondary students, enrollment in advanced coursework, including advanced placement, international baccalaureate, honors, and dual enrollment courses, the use of high-quality standards-based Tier 1 instructional materials resulting in improved Tier 1 curriculum and instruction, and incorporating career and technical education pathways aligned to industry demands. Moving forward, our plans for continuous improvement include staying the course on Tier 1 instruction, continuing to elevate and enhance our Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction, including focused support through our English learner instructional pathways and special education supports, continuing to improve daily attendance, enhancing family engagement opportunities, continuing to strengthen the multi-tiered system of supports, specifically including social emotional learning and wraparound services, developing workforce readiness and post-secondary planning with students, having coursework aligned to those post-secondary plans, continuing to offer targeted supports for school leaders on master scheduling, and continuing to provide summer learning opportunities for students, which include district-wide offerings and acceleration learning.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, for the record, Dustin Mansell. Thank you for this opportunity to share the updates related to Clark County School District's graduation rates. And at this time, we'll pause and take questions from the board.
Trustee Johnson.
I've never passed on the drug, so I feel like I won Jeopardy tonight. I really appreciate the really robust report on providing us like graduation rates. It's really helpful. A couple of notes before I have 2 questions. One, it was very helpful for me to hear about the individualized support that students are receiving, like to be able to help move them through their journey. I thought that's a really innovative way to make sure kids are able to take control of their future, have an adult, supportive adult along the way with them, and also incorporating families along the way. I think we've learned that that's actually the tripod actually helps make sure that students see that success. And it was also really great to see that there was great movement amongst subgroups that previously had low graduation rate or lower graduation rates. So Native students, Black students, and students with special needs all had some of the strongest percentage growth among the grad rates year over year, and then against the state. So that was really good to see. The 2 questions I have are, one, do we know what subgroups are earning the advanced and CCR diplomas? Those seem to be the most rigorous diplomas that we can offer, especially the CCR diploma. And do we have any data that provides subgroups of who's earning those? second question is, do we have any data around how our growth, which has been really strong, how it compares against our urban or large district peers, LA, Chicago, Miami, New York, et cetera? Because us moving the needle here is hard work, and I know they also work really hard, but I want to make sure that we are able to see how we're comparing against their work.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Johnson. Chris Hoffman for the record. With both of those pieces, I do not have that data here. However, that is something that we can definitely compile for the board, just to make sure that we have that information. One of the things that I will just kind of bring to light is that the diploma types may vary from state to state and from large district to large district. However, if you're asking for the overall graduation rates, that is something that we can definitely put together for you.
It was just the large graduation comparison within here, the CCR, amongst others.
Vice President Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is on page 8 of 10. You talked about moving forward in ways to improve, and the bullet point regarding workforce readiness. What ideas do you guys have?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Bustamante Adams. I'm Monica Martin for the record. Specific to workforce readiness is outlined in the Core 4 Bridge Work document. This work really begins in middle school. So thinking about resources for middle school students in career exploration. In elementary school, the pattern here is exposure around careers. So we think about career fairs and different kind of job fairs for students to be exposed to. In middle school, this is very much exploration. So they're really starting to learn themselves with career interests, self-inventories, and exploring different careers. And then in high school, this becomes very experiential. So we're trying to think about work-based learning, having a job, and experiencing different types of industries. So specific to developing workforce readiness, this would start in middle school as outlined in the Core 4 Bridge Work.
Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation. The only question I have is, and I do miss this about the presentations where it says lessons learned, because it gives us an idea of what, through this process, what we learned and how to get there. So kind of putting that out there, we can talk a little bit of what you learned through this situation and then some other outcomes from those lessons learned, because it used to be a pattern and I really enjoyed watching that as a visual learner.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza Strawberry. It was a
For
question.
clarification, do we have any lessons learned from this process?
Trustee Zamora, thank you for the question, Monica Martin for the record. I think if I were considering lessons learned from the counseling perspective, I think about the different diploma types and trying to learn what prohibits students from a college and career ready diploma as opposed to an advanced or standard. So school counselors are well versed in sitting with students and navigating which courses they're going to choose, but often I reflect on like what might be prohibiting students from actually achieving the highest of the diploma. So it's just something I reflect on.
And Trustee Zamora and I do apologize. I thought you wanted us to bring that back into our future presentations, but thank you. I think there are lessons learned everywhere. I know that our English Language Learner Division has worked diligently over the last couple of years to build out English language pathways, specifically for newcomers and LTELs. As we see students progress throughout the grade levels from elementary, middle, into high school, there are more students that are qualifying as long-term English learners. So building out specific courses that are double blocked with English to help language proficiency, knowing that as we provide supports in both acquiring English as a second, third, or fourth language, along with understanding the content, will help students prepare for graduation. Same with our supports within special education. There has been a lot of collaboration between the Student Services Division and the Curriculum Instruction Division to ensure that all students, even those within self-contained programs, have access to high-quality Tier 1 instructional materials, and to ensure that special education teachers have those opportunities to collaboratively plan with general education teachers, so they are purposefully planning for the students in front of them every single day. So there are areas within curriculum instruction, student services division, English language learner division, even our additional supports through the college career readiness and school choice division, where Jean Moore, our assistant superintendent, meets each principal every year at a high school, really plans around their schedule to ensure that advanced level coursework are being offered. It's very focused within the CT pathways, that we're really expanding AP opportunities and dual enrollment opportunities with our higher education institutions. So it really is multi-leveled, pronged across all divisions and departments, working alongside our principals, as Ms. Martin had mentioned, the parents, the students, making sure that we are intentional around the courses that they are selecting, really listening to what their future goals are within beyond high school, and ensuring that we are setting them up for success.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Strachan. Esparza-Strachan. Okay. Chris, welcome. I think you've been on the job for what, less than a few months? So I think it's appropriate because I want to echo Trustee Zamora's request. So I had the opportunity to watch the Department of Ed's graduation presentation. And what I really appreciated was the way that they formatted their presentation. I know, Chris, you know, I'm a data person. So what I think we need going forward as we develop our strategic plan is a lot more data than what was shared today. You inherited the template, and I know we're going to be talking about that in the future. So one of the things that I just want to bring out is when they shared the data, they went so deep to talk about like CTE completers. They talked about the FRLs. They talked about specifically that we have the IEPs, the ELs. They even went to the description of unhoused, a population of our students. They even did foster identification, and they also did military connected. So I just think, for me, I really think getting down to that piece of our data would be valuable for our community and for us to be informed about it. And as we're going forward and looking at new formats and adding a little bit more robust pieces. You answered my ELL. Thank you, Dr. Mansell, on that. I was going to ask you about the supports and what's being done different. I have two questions. First one is, we talked about special education. Do we know and are we tracking the amount of standard diplomas that our special needs students are acquiring? And over time, have we tracked that?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Stoffergan. Chris Hoffman for the record. So we are tracking that. We are able to pull the information as Ms. Martin shared. Students that are taking the alternative assessments do have access to the alternative diploma and the other requirements that are part of that. And then students that are not taking those alternative assessments are held to the standard diploma expectations. And so we do have that. However, to your point regarding additional data and digging in a little bit deeper, that is something that we will definitely bring forward in the future.
And maybe our counselor, thank you for that response. That's helpful that we are tracking. Can you explain to us why that's important for our students and with ability that they acquire a standard diploma?
Yes, absolutely. Trustee Esparza-Strachan, thank you for the question. Monica Martin for the record. Students who qualify for special education services typically receive one of 3 diplomas, I might say. There could be a standard or advanced or a CCR diploma that we saw tonight. There might be the alternative diploma, which was created by the state to match that of the standard diploma, except they don't take the ACT, they take the NAW assessment. Or a student might earn an adjusted diploma. This means that they met the needs of their IEP, but according to the state, they are not counted in this data as a graduate. That has very different outcomes for what happens to them after they graduate high school, specifically to PACE and POST programs. So students that earn a standard diploma are considered a graduate and might not have the same opportunities as those who earn an adjusted diploma. So an adjusted diploma wouldn't be reflected as a graduate in this data. However, it might be best for the student in their long-term plan of what they want to do after high school.
Thank you. I'll go back in the queue. Thank you for that. Trustee Barone.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm hardened with these statistics here, right? Sorry about that. But kind of like what Trustee Ramona Esparza had mentioned, there's a couple of things here that they don't get reflected, I guess, in the raw numbers. I myself, I am all about education reform. You know, we're still planning a school year based on the age of agriculture. We're still, you know, moving children along, kind of like based upon, you know, the age of industry, right? We're well beyond that. We're on to a whole different age, right? And so I've always seen that as we go forward, we have a new melding of different ideas. I mean, there's no reason why, hey, if kids in Cuba can go ahead and be in medical school when they're 15, 16 years old, I can't see why our kids, you know, couldn't be unleashed upon, you know, our educational system to take their rightful place. We have someone here who's writing programs, and she's only going to Yale. I can't see why we couldn't get her into some, you know, really high octane program that's gonna. She might be coming up with a software to predict cancer rates in people, right? So anyhow, I'm always again, after 30 years, I'm still never amazed by what our students can do. But I guess where I'm going to my question, as we melt things, one thing that's been a big success for us has been this the dual credit partnerships that we're having with for instance, with CSN and with Nevada State College. And I remember my former boss, Darlene Delgado, she was graduating kids from her school who were like 2 and 3 credits short of an associate's degree, which is incredible, right? And of course, for any parent who's listening here, if you don't have your kids in the dual credit program, you're missing the boat, because that's like almost like free money here, right? Try paying for the college education. CCSD will help you pay for it if you get your kids in early enough, right? Anyhow, the statistics really don't like flesh that out. But maybe you can speak a little bit, even if it's a colloquial kind of thing here, as to how this dual credit program is affecting. Because I would have to think that many of the kids who are in these programs, they must be achieving a graduation at a slightly higher rate than the kids who are not in the program.
Trustee Barone, I appreciate that question, and I am having Gia Moore, our Assistant Superintendent of the College Career Readiness School Choice Division, who leads our dual enrollment programs here in Clark County, so I will have her speak to that.
I kind of like had her in mind, you know, we were former colleagues, right? So I said, I didn't want to actually like just, you know, put her on the spot, but you did, so that's cool.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Gia Moore for the record. Thanks for the question, Trustee Barone. So I think what you're asking is access to college level coursework, advanced coursework as a means to kind of getting their foot in the door post-graduation.
Encourage them in, push them out the door onto a bright future. Right,
so as part of our work for the last 4 years, as mentioned in this presentation, we've been doing some real strategic work. I call it almost like a forensic analysis of data at our high schools, as well as a forensic analysis of their master schedule. The master schedule is really at the heartbeat of a school. You tell a lot about the priorities of a school by taking a look at the master schedule. And so in those meetings with the principals, we look at multiple data points. We look at access to advanced level coursework, which includes AP, IB, dual enrollment. We look at who's enrolled in those courses. We look at how many courses those students are taking. But the one thing is, so we want to make sure that every student that leaves the Clark County School District has had access to at least one of those courses. One of the things, as an example, we really push is math. Math tends to be a real gatekeeper for students once they get to college. So if a student, as an example, is in Math 120, and they can take that with us with one of our amazing dual enrollment partners, their likelihood of continuing on in a degree pathway is exponentially higher than if they didn't. The same thing, if they've just had one AP course, the data shows us that their chances of moving on post-graduation to college and career are exponentially higher. But we dig a little bit more into that. And so one of the things, and you'll hear from me soon, is that we're really taking a look at the course catalog. So when you're having conversations with students, and I heard from students this evening, I want to be a doctor. I guarantee you in that student's schedule, they had chemistry, they had higher level math. What we don't want is a student to have that dream and then we didn't give them that exposure to that coursework prior to graduation. So I'm just giving you some examples of ways that we can kind of mitigate any roadblocks when a student graduates, and so that they can continue along with that pathway. But we've got to do a really good job at making sure that they have access to that coursework so the door isn't closed prior to when they leave. And then we're also giving them that experiential learning, starting as early as elementary school, but really in middle school, so they actually know once they get to high school, what those pathways entail. What is it about? A lot of our students can't visualize what advanced manufacturing is or those things. So we're bringing them to our business partners so they can start to visualize all these amazing options that are in the world and start to envision what their life might be post-graduation for jobs that don't exist yet. So really just trying to make sure that no doors are closed for our students once they graduate.
And Madam President, if you would indulge me just a slight follow-on, and I guess you did mention ELL. If I remember correctly, when I was still teaching at Randall High School, I do remember I had ELL students who were also sometimes actually involved in AP and the dual credit programs. Do you have any, even like off the top of your head, stats on those? Because again, many people expect these students to be, other than high performing, but we know that they're quite intelligent. They're just learning a new language. Maybe you could speak a little bit to that.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Barone. So I don't have any data offhand in terms of ELL students specifically, but here's what I will say is that when we were embarking upon making sure we were expanding dual enrollment specifically for our students in the Park County School District, we were prioritizing students that were first-generation college-going students. So the first in their families to go to college, we wanted to make sure that they had exposure and the opportunity as well as the supports to be able to do that. And obviously a number of those students are ELL students. But I don't have that data with you, but that has been a priority in that expansion, and we've grown, I want to say our expansion has been over 1,000% in the last 4 years, and so that is really kind of prioritizing making sure that the students that wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity now have that. And that's the expectation that we have of our higher ed partners as well, is that they're engaging with our students that wouldn't have had that opportunity, along with those supports and services, such as going out of FAFSA. We just did a parent workshop recently for our middle school parents. So we were giving them a toolkit so they can have good conversations with their middle schoolers and know what all these options are in high school. So they're not just finding out from their child when they bring home a flyer at the bottom of their backpack. So really trying to touch, find ways where we can mitigate any sort of knowledge gap to make sure that our students aren't missing out on opportunities.
I'm very excited. That's good educational policy. Congratulations.
Trustee Biassatti.
Thank you, Madam President. It's great to see increases across all groups. But regarding requirements, I understand that math testing is used to assess growth and progress, but because we want to see proficiency rates rise along with graduation rates for standard diplomas, is there an assessment administered during senior year that is factored into graduation requirements?
Trustee Biassatti, thank you for the question. Monica Martin for the record. The only testing requirement that is required for all diplomas is the ACT plus writing. That's from the Nevada Department of Education. That's a participation requirement, minus of course the alternative diploma. They take the NA assessment, but for the standard, the advanced, and the college and career ready, they are required to participate in the ACT plus writing in their junior year.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza Stoffergan. I'll defer to trustees that have not had an opportunity. Then that would go to Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Trustee. My question was more for the work readiness and making sure our students are ready when they graduate high school here. And I got the privilege of going to 11 graduations last year, and that was, and I had 3 in prison. So I was very astounded by just the work that goes into graduation and then all of the accreditations that they kids are receiving. I would love to hear more about the work readiness and how we're connecting them to real jobs and getting them really ready.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Dominguez. I am going to next month be providing you with an update to advanced level coursework with advanced placement, dual enrollment, CTE. So I'll go into a lot more detail with that. But in terms of workforce readiness, we have a great opportunity now. So a few years back, we transitioned from 3-year CTE pathways to 2-year CTE pathways. And what that really did was it gave us the opportunity to really build them out to be more 4-year pathways. So a student completes years 1 and 2, and then the options are they can have a work-based learning opportunity where they're out in industry, they're putting their skill sets to work. They can take dual enrollment coursework, which a lot of our students are taking advantage of. So they're already getting a head start prior to graduation with that coursework. We give a number of industry recognized credentials. So for example, students can become a certified nursing assistant prior to graduation. There's hundreds of them. So we're making sure that they at least have those opportunities as well. So regardless of whether or not they decide to pursue that post-graduation, they have a skill set that's allowing for them to be employable while they decide what that journey is going to be.
Trustee Esparza-Stoffergan. Thank you. I just want to celebrate our teachers, our administrators, our support staff, because this is a big shift, and you, Gia Moore, for having conversations decades ago to get to this space. My question is, I recall my former life, sometimes students don't want to take advanced coursework. I remember a specific young woman that fought me, and I had to convince the parent, I had to bring the parent in, because the student went to the counselor, the student's out of, and I'm not using names, but this is a real story, and convinced the counselor to remove them from the course. So once I found out, I made sure that that conversation happened with the parent to say, we need her in the class. It was the difference between her getting an advanced diploma and not. So enhancing family engagement. I want to know, how are we really making sure that parents understand the different diploma types, the opportunities, the access to scholarship money, the access to opening doors for whatever pathway a student is going to choose. I just remember that one story out of 1,000 in that situation. What are we doing to really tap in and inform our parents?
Trustee Esparza-Stoffergan, thank you for the question, Monica Martin. It's a great question. It really does, as you alluded to, come down to the counselor, student, parent, sometimes administrator conversation at both the individual micro level and then at a macro level. So macroly speaking, the district produces a graduation brochure that is put out to all students and families, and most of them are posted on school websites. It's a standard. The Nevada Department of Ed makes a state brochure, and then the district makes a smaller version, so our students have at the ready all the different diploma types and the requirements for that. The conversations around whether or not to drop a class and stay in a class are so multifaceted. I think about students who maybe want to drop a 4th year of their science class, and the educator in us says, no, but science is great, we should stay, but we need a 3.25 GPA for the Millennium Scholarship, and that's a $10,000 decision to stay in a course that we may or may not be so great at. And then we have to discuss with parents, should we stay in this course? We want a 4th year of science, but what about all the other extenuating circumstances? And generally it does start in the counselor's office. That's where the student goes. And then the counselor asks all these peripheral questions, involves a parent when we're making decisions that are going to impact diploma type, gown color, graduation status, Millennium Scholarship, college admissions, and really having a good idea of what that post-secondary plan is. So for students who are Ivy League bound, like we heard tonight, and accepted to Yale, that might be a different answer than a student that's not planning to attend college and going straight to workforce afterwards. But you have to know all of that about the student, and this is what school counselors are trained to do and do on the daily, and do well.
Trustee Johnson.
Thank you for asking that question, Trustee Esparza-Stoffergan, because it segues well to the thought I had part of how a student might finish or what they might do along the journey depends on where they start in the race. And so like I was a track runner, I used to love being in rank 1, right, being on the inside, right? And so thinking about a CCR diploma versus the highest diploma we can get, what is the way that we position a 9th grader to make sure they're already on that track and they have to opt out of that? I know I understand that there was like state regulation that effectively said every 9th grader had, at least I thought there was regulation that, but maybe you can explain more clearly to this person who's fumbling through it.
Yes, no, Trustee Johnson, you're absolutely right. Thank you for the question. There is state legislation that says that students, all freshmen, are enrolled in the college and career ready diploma. We do that centrally. That's not left up to the individual counselor to pick and choose. As a central, again, macro kind of system, our offices centrally assign every student to the college and career ready diploma. So from the jump, right out of the gate, they are working towards that diploma. And counselors will kind of toggle back and forth between, okay, a challenge on the CCR diploma is the grade point average. It's a 3.25. So if we're in all of the right courses and we're doing everything correctly, but maybe we don't have the grade point average that we need, it's not usually until end of junior year, beginning of senior year, that we might have to say, oh, okay, I don't know that the college and career ready diploma, although we planned for it, we haven't met those requirements. And so we definitely plan, like you say, what is the starting point for everyone to have the college and career ready diploma? It is the most rigorous and prepare students, I believe, for both college and or career with all of the different requirements and compound requirements and industry credentials. So we definitely start that way.
If in fact the split factor is like the weighted GPA 3.25 would separate most from being able to earn that, do students have to come in and say, you know what, I'm going to opt out, or is it like what's the mechanism at that point? Once you're at your junior year, you might recognize that I might not have the academic grades today, but like, is there a way to stay on it and be like, I'm still going to push forward, or do they have to, or does the counselor? What does that conversation look like? I guess maybe the better question.
Sure, it's a great question. It's not as simple as just opting out and changing our mind. It's very fluid. You could stay on the college and career ready diploma until the day before you graduate, but at the end of the day, you've earned enough to earn the standard diploma. So a student who says, no, I insist on the CCR, I must have it, but at the very, very end, they could have done all of the coursework, but maybe not met all of the requirements, but they've earned a standard diploma, they're going to graduate, but we certainly want them to stay there. So it's not you opted out and now you're on the standard and we just stay that way for the rest of the next year and a half or so through senior year. It's truly a very fluid, I keep going like this because it's in the computer, it's a drop down where we just change, like, oh, if you were on CCR, what would that look like? Oh, okay, what does advanced look like? Oh, okay. And then we leave it on CCR until the next time the student comes back.
That is super helpful. Thank you for explaining that.
Trustee Henry. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you all so much for the presentation. I had a question regarding APEX courses. APEX courses and, its impact on our graduation rates. Do you all have any data on how many students take APEX courses to complete their required graduation credits, if that makes sense?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Henry. Chris Hoffman for the record. So we have access to that information. I just do not have that with me tonight because we were looking at the more umbrella topics, but looking at students that have taken APEX courses in order to meet those requirements is something that we can look into.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Trustee Satori.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the presentation. It is really exciting to see these numbers going up, and thank you for all of the hard work. I know the counseling is such a huge part of the guidance they receive and such. So, which is kind of along with my question as well, that 13 to 14% that did not graduate in the 4 years, what kind of data or feedback do we have on the factors that cause them not to graduate, or if they graduate in their 5th year, how many, and the different, what kind of data do we have possibly there?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Satori. Chris Hoffman again for the record. So we do also track a 5-year graduation rate. That is always a lagging measure because obviously we're adding another year. And so we do have access to that, and that is something that we validate with the State Department every year to look at those numbers. And then above and beyond that, we do still have some students that enroll in adult education and go beyond that 5th year. Beyond those pieces, the tracking that we have is with the adult education, but looking into the secondary, what they do at that point, it is truly, do we have the graduation information for those individuals?
Thank you. It looks like that concludes our discussion. We do have 2 individuals for public comment, so thank you for the presentation. It's amazing. For public comment, we have Kimberly Johnson-Lindsay.
Hi, Kimmy Johnson Wednesday. Thank you guys. Looking over the graph, I would like to see the information broke down a little bit differently. I'm so excited to see an 8.9% increase in the demographics of our African American students graduating, and I love that. That's wonderful. But I think that we do better to see where they are in the city versus just racially the segregation of it. Because I did some research in it, and families that have a lot more support, it's not necessarily a racial thing. So I would like to see how we can support families to increase those graduation rates across the board versus just putting it all just race-based, if that makes sense. So that's all I had to say on that. Other than that, I was excited to see how those numbers go up.
Thank you, Kimberly. And then you're gonna have to forgive me because I'm having a hard time here. I think it's Sorry, thank you.
I was writing really fast.
You sure were. All right, we'll go ahead and start your time. Thank you.
So, Trustee Johnson's pointed out on that slide 4 shows the increase of higher grad rates across that has increased over all racial groups. Hopefully we don't continue to just look through the lens of race, as pointed out, I think it's already been said. Every student should obviously graduate knowing how to read and write and function with real world math that are essential skills necessary to any workforce. Based on the discussion though, CCSD does have guardrails for all students to have equal access to education, which the data in this presentation seems to support. So I just wanted to say that that was a positive thing. The second one was, as a school counselor, I've been in counseling for a very long time. I'm gonna agree to disagree when it comes to special education planning, when it comes to, especially in math curriculum. The only reason that I'm gonna bring this up is because it was brought up with grad rates. Students that are actually resourced get Math 1 and Math 2. The problem that every year, there's a problem that comes up with what are we gonna do with our junior and senior students who have resource classes. They are entitled to get those 4 years because they are entitled to earn a standard diploma. They are entitled to get the 3 years, and the flex credit does not mean it's flexible. It means you have to have 4 years of math, 4 years of science, or higher history or whatever. What happens is we continue to discontinue junior and senior special ed resource math classes. Those numbers get moved. We don't have numbers for kids to put into those courses. Where did those kids go? It makes me angry every year when we do the master scheduling, when I'm going in there advocating as an education, as a counselor for special education, when I'm like, where's the 4 years of math for my resource students, and I don't have them. So I will agree to disagree that we are doing better when it comes to allowing these kids to graduate, but I do not believe the math is actually where it should be. I would like to know, where is the junior and senior math for these kids to earn those standard diplomas or those CCR diplomas or wherever you're going with it, because they're entitled to the same equity when it comes to education. So that is my point about special education. Hopefully we can address that big issue. Thank you.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Sorry, Tanya Atterbury for the record.
Thank you. And that concludes public comment for 4.01. Do I have a motion to approve this presentation? Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to accept the graduation reports in alignment with the 2025-2026 annual board report schedule.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to second.
Thank you. Cast your votes. Motion passes. Thank you guys so much. All right, moving on. We're now moving on to item 5.01. This is the time and place that was published on January 8th, 2026 to conduct a public hearing on discussion of and possible action on approval of the 2026 B medium-term authorization resolution, authorizing an issue of medium-term obligations in the amount of $45,500,000 in order to finance all or a portion of the cost of acquiring, improving, and equipping school facilities, including transportation vehicles and technology equipment and facilities. Authorization for the superintendent or the chief financial officer to specify the terms of the bonds, and for the president and clerk of the board of school trustees to sign the necessary documents is recommended. Before we hear the presentation, I just want to remind everyone, if you'd like to fill out a speaker's card on this item, please do. Hand it to these lovely ladies up front. Where is yours?
Thank you, trustees. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. The 2026 B resolution is for the board to approve the medium-term bonds in the amount of $45.5 million. Medium-term bonds are used to purchase buses, white fleet vehicles, and technology equipment. This purchase specifically will not include white fleet. You'll remember that we had this hearing at the last meeting on January 8th due to these bonds using tax revenue for payment. It comes from local room tax and real property tax revenues. This evening is the second hearing and resolution for approval. With that, trustees, that concludes my presentation.
Well, thank you. All right, we'll open it up for discussion. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. My question was regarding the coding that's going to be created and how it's going to be used statewide.
Thank you for the question, trustee. So for this item, no coding or anything. This is just the issuance of our 2026 B bonds.
Got it. Thank you. Trustee Cavazos.
I didn't see anybody else in the queue, so I was ready to make a motion to accept 5.01. Public hearing and approval of the 2026B medium-term bond authorization resolution.
I will ask for a second. Trustee Johnson.
I will second.
We have a second. Cast your votes. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on. Yes, I know. We are, yes, stay there. We are now at 5.02, resolution to amend the establishment of special revenue funds. Before I open item 5.02, is there anyone who did not get a chance to do a public speaker card? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and floor is yours, Mr. Dayhoff.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, again, Justin Dayhoff, Chief Financial Officer for the record. The Clark County School District is authorized to establish a special revenue fund to account for the sources and uses of fines assessed and collected associated with CCSD PD issued citations. This resolution proposes to amend the establishment of the special revenue fund to include this fund. Also, this authorization allows us to file that resolution with the Nevada Department of Taxation as required by Nevada Revised Statutes NRS 354.612. And that constitutes this presentation as well, trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. It's time for discussion, trustees. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Dayhoff, if I'm understanding you correctly on this, basically this is what we would call a proactive move.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Cavazos. I would equate this to the district just being able to open a bank account with $0 balance. In order to do so, we have to notify the Department of Taxation and then the Nevada Department of Education to create that statewide item in the chart of accounts for our future use.
Okay, so this isn't for any specific thing, but just to have those funds ready and available.
Yes, trustee, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Esparza Stofferman. Thank you. And if I'm off or out of order, the lawyer will tell me. because this is a new process for us, is this something potentially, now that it would be opened, could potentially come back to us?
Trustee, thank you so much for the question. So we are actually leveraging the same process that we use anytime we've needed to create a special revenue fund, so there's no difference to that end. So thank you for the opportunity to clarify. This is following up part and parcel, and I anticipate in the future, as accounting needs and requirements evolve, we may need to come back for additional requests for other special revenue funds unrelated to other parts of the district as well.
Thank you for that clarification.
Trustee Barone.
Oh yes, thank you very much. I just had one quick thought. Once this is established, what unit or fund will it be actually administered under? I ask because, of course, in the future, that will tell us, how we can actually, if and when we begin to realize, well, I hate to say this, but when people begin to break the law and try to go around buses and they get this thing in the mail and they have to pay. Under what fund or unit will that be used to actually address funding issues for the school district?
Trustee Barone, thank you for the question. The establishment of this fund is truly for a wide variety of revenue for CCSD PD issued citations. It is not limited to a specific infraction. Our CCSD PD issued many different types of infractions, and the authorizing statute under NRS provides a likewise wide array of uses of those funds that govern the responsibility and allowable uses like safety training, etc. So there are a wide array of uses. This would conform directly to the language and allowable uses that are articulated in NRS.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Madam President, if you're ready to entertain a motion, I would love to make one.
Seeing as there's nobody else in the queue and we have nobody signed up for public comment, I will ask for a second. Trustee Asadi?
I will second the motion.
Okay, cast your votes.
Well, my motion was to accept the resolution to amend the establishment of the special revenue fund.
I apologize. Thank you for clarifying. Trustee Biasotti?
I second that motion.
Okay, great, thanks. Cast your votes. Awesome, motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on. We are now at item 5.03, public hearing on the possible approval of the new 2025 to 2027 negotiated agreement between the Clark County School District and the Police Officers Association of the Clark County School District. This is the time and place to conduct a public hearing on discussion of and possible action on the approval of the 2025 to 2027 negotiated agreement between the Clark County School District and the Police Officers Association of the Clark County School District. I'd like to remind everybody, if you'd like to fill out a speaker's card, now is a good time to do that. And John, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam President, Trustees, Superintendent Ebert. For the record, John Okazaki, General Counsel. I am very happy to bring to you tonight another collective bargaining agreement proposal for your consideration and approval. This one is with our Police Officers Association of the Clark County School District. You have the reference materials. I will just summarize what the proposed agreed terms are. So this new revised, new negotiated agreement for 25-27 would modify 6 articles as indicated in the reference materials. This is a summary of the revisions. Number 1, we would increase the compensation that officers receive for intermediate and advanced training certificates that they get from POST. They already get a stipend. We will be increasing each by 3%. Number 2, we would agree to continue provide for the normal step advancements that are in their negotiated agreement. Number 3, we were going to provide a 2.5% cost of living adjustments to their salary beginning on July 1st, 2026. So that would be for the 26-27 fiscal year. As a continuation of the supplemental compensation funded by SB 231. And there is a typo here in the reference materials. It says which is not funded. It should say which is now funded by SB 500. So to explain that one, In 2023, SB 231 provided conference fund POA was one of them. This provision continues that adjustment that was provided by SB 231, and it will be funded by SB 500, which is the replacement for SB 231. Number 4, we will continue to cover half of the health increase, but they will cover the other half. Their health premiums went up to 4% this year, so they will be responsible for their share of that, the 2%. If there's any changes in 26, we will negotiate who will be responsible for any increase of that. Number 5 provides that for the July 1st, 2025 PERS rate increase, that we will use the in lieu of equivalent basic salary increase or cost of living increase option. What this means is that essentially we are providing them with a salary increase which they will be using to cover the increase in PERS. So it is a method in which that they don't have to see a reduction in their pay for the increase in PERS. We are giving them a salary increase in lieu of PERS contributions. Number 6, we're increasing their annual uniform allowance by $500. Number 7 simply updates the dates, the terms of the agreement. And lastly, like we've done for all of the other negotiated agreements this year, there's a provision that we will agree to continue to negotiate other terms. The purpose of this is primarily to avoid the whole MOU process and have these rogue documents out there. We want everything in the negotiated agreement, so anytime we agree to negotiate new terms, we will bring it to you just the way I'm bringing it to you tonight. And that is the revisions that are being proposed. You have the fiscal information in front of you. All the value of these revisions is approximately 10.94% increase in their contract value, which is consistent with what we've done with all the other units, between 10 and 11%. And with that, I'll rest and answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Trustee Esparza-Staffergan.
Thank you. I know that Mr. Okazaki, this is what number of our?
This is the 4th out of 5, so we're done with 4.
We're done with 4 out of 5. And so we definitely want to acknowledge the hard work of our officers, and you know, it's been a process. One thing I wanted to ask is, can you clarify the equitable, I would say, conversations that have been had with each to make sure that that has been done? And you kind of alluded to it at the end. Would you remind us?
Yes, the direction that I had in negotiating these contracts from Superintendent Ebert and from the board is that we wanted to make sure that we were treating all of our bargaining units equitably. And that we thought the best way to do that was to look not at individual terms and compensation packages, but to look at what is the increased value of their contract with us. We started off with CCA because they're our biggest one, and that's the one that we always try to address first, since it's a majority of our budget. But we got, with them, it was the 10 to 11% range. And so from that point forward, we told all of the bargaining units, and that's where we want to stay, so that we can honestly say that we're treating all of our employees equally.
Thank you. I just wanted that to kind of be put on record. I know there's still discussion, President, but I'd love to make a motion when it's time.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. I was ready to second that motion, so I'll go ahead and just put that on the record. And I want to echo Trustee Esparza-Staffergan's thanks to you, Mr. Okazaki, and your hardworking team, and also to echo the part about that we have very diverse bargaining units. They're all here for the same reason, though, for the benefit of our students, our educators, and our communities. So I just want to express gratitude for you always remembering the equity part of the bargaining work that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to let the public know that during our 288 gatherings, the NRS 288 gatherings, we do ask a lot of questions. So this is, may appear that we may not have many on the dais, but there is a lot of discussion with board legal counsel. My question, Mr. Okazaki, is the vacancy rate for our police officers. From what I understood, we were super close to 100%, if not 100%.
That is my understanding as well. When I inquired about that, we don't presently have any concerns about vacancies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. One practical question. The 7 million will it be evenly split over 2 years, or is it going to be stagger split in terms of how where the impact will be felt?
The 7 million is actually, I believe, and Chief Financial Officer can correct me, is an average of the 2 years.
Okay.
So what we do is we actually look at how much it's going to cost each year, because an increase in the second year would include an increase in the first year. So we take the entire package and we divide it by 2. You get an average annual increase in salary value.
Okay. And then that leads to the second part of the question, which is, I don't imagine we'll ever negotiate when we pay less, which means we'll have to figure out a way outside of this to grow revenue. And we know that there are fewer students that are going to come to the district no matter what. Even if every student in Clark County decide to come, the growth rate is going down. So that revenue is going down. How can we start to figure out how to offset some of the increasing costs that this is going to have with the fact that there will be less revenue over time? And whether you can answer that, Mr. Okazaki, or that's like a strategy question we need to start thinking about.
That obviously is a concern, but in all of the negotiated agreements, there's also a provision that the parties agree to continue to work jointly to secure funding for salaries. You can see there's some success there in like SB 231, SB 460, where there are, in SB 500, where they're actually dedicating funds to salaries and not part of the other funding components. So we're getting dedicated funding for salaries. We need more, and if the trend in enrollment continues, we're not going to be able to, fund increases unless we do get that dedicated funding.
Superintendent Ebert, did you have something to add?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. And General Counsel Okazaki answered that exactly right. With the negotiated agreement, there are the opportunities always to renegotiate if something does happen. What I will tell you though is that, as noted earlier, we are 47th in the nation for funding education. So let's just start with that. So we still have a long way to go. What was wonderful in the presentation tonight is that 2 years ago, the legislature and the governor signed off on additional $2.6 billion. So you think about that 2.6 billion was added to education, and we're still 47th in the nation. It's roughly $5,000 more per student just to get to average. I don't know how many people strive for average. Not me. I don't strive for average. So all of us working together this next legislative session, when they talk about funding education and they want to see student outcomes, we proved that investment in education, when they invested an additional $2.6 billion, we increased our graduation rate 5.1 percentage points. And we have amazing staff. We want to make sure they're compensated appropriately. And so that opportunity to continue to make sure that education in Nevada is funded as an investment for all of Southern Nevada is very important. And so we'll continue to work in that direction as well. Yes, the declining birth rates, we're keeping an eye on and adjusting as that moves forward as well.
Trustee Barone.